Did you know if you drop a like and subscribe in the next 5 seconds, nothing will happen but it will put a giant smile on my face? So finally in Fortnite Chapter 3 Season 1, after literally over a month of waiting, we can unlock the foundation, and not only that but all the second page of rewards. And because of this, considering we've just seen the mid-season update, meaning we're safely over halfway through the season now, or 50%, let's just say that the focus of everybody has shifted to what's going to be going on to end off this season in terms of a live event, and let's just say it's something that nobody could have predicted prior to Chapter 3 starting. No, I'm not talking about the foundation statue falling over, considering so many people are clickbaiting this as some form of live event, however it was a glitch that was recently patched. But speaking of this statue in the future updates to come, considering Epic Games are already working on 19.40, let's just say there's more than meets the eye with this particular location of the mighty monument. I really don't want to spoil too much, but as you can see by the title already, so it's technically not a spoiler, let's get prepared anyways for a Final Showdown v2 between another Devourer monster and a brand new designed robot from the 7. I know that already sounds good to everybody watching this video right now, so do yourself a favour, sit back, relax with your favourite snacks and stick around to watch the full thing. And whilst you're doing that, one favour you can do me, as it's 100% free to do, is enter code FM1 in the item shop. I challenge you all right now, try and make this process last longer than 10 seconds, and if it does, don't enter it, that's how confident I am. Entering code FM1 not only puts a giant smile on my face, but cheers my pug up Gus too, as he's been kind of sad recently, from not only discovering that yes, he looks like a baby Clombo, but on top of the fact he's found out 70% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel. And speaking of subscribing, we've just recently surpassed 2.3 million, you guys have been killing it lately, so everybody who hasn't clicked the big red button, click it. And of course, after all, this can only benefit you, considering I also give 5 subscribers every single day, so if you want to receive a gift off me, simply make sure you subscribe to the channel with all notifications turned on, and then comment your Epic Games ID down below and let me know what you like to receive. So perhaps in the next video you could be gifted on screen in front of hundreds of thousands of eyes to see. But with that said, now enough messing around, we need to dive into everything to do with Chapter 3's lore, how it's starting out and ultimately going to end up to end off Season 1 going into Season 2, so make sure of course you don't go anywhere.
Don't go anywhere!
I'm not, I'm sitting on my
Don't
back.
go anywhere!
Okay, so to start out we need to rewind to the start of Chapter 3, or ultimately how Chapter 3 started in itself, for clues pointing toward, well, what's going to be happening, or a theme clearly established that's going to be ongoing throughout this chapter as a whole. And by doing so, you guys know how in the Chapter 2 finale called the End Event, in the cinematic itself anyways, not only did Dr. Slone reveal where she'd taken Agent Jones to in this jumpsuit form, but for the first time we not only saw other members of the 7 despite the Foundation come to save the day. But speaking of the Foundation and the fact we can unlock him now and also the Rock selectable style, this is where we initially knew Dwayne The Rock Johnson was underneath the mask. Many of you will be wondering, I know, why am I mentioning this, considering, yeah, literally the whole community saw it, considering it was a finale of the last chapter. Well, despite analysing what physically went on, of course the overall theme behind it was basically a conflict established or shown that's currently ongoing still between the Imagined Order, of which Dr. Slone is the leader of, and the 7 being, well, what the Foundation is the leader of. Of course, with this cinematic ending, and with it seeming like the 7 and Agent John Jones actually managed to pull a victory out of this, after we eventually washed up onto the Chapter 3 island, after it flipped over and obviously downtime lifted, it was immediately brought to our attention based off not only the 7 outposts around the map, but the sanctuary area, the monument, and also this 7 outpost right here, and even these statues representing all of the members of the 7 anyways, that yeah, the 7 was going to be a big part of Chapter 3, even ongoing as a part of the storyline in Chapter 3 Season 1. As the days passed and as the snow melted anyways, on the lead up to what the map changes currently are, being the reveal of Tilted Towers and also Covert Cavern, believe it or not, very minimal map changes or secrets pointing toward the storyline did occur in game, despite one thing being the launching of several rockets out of these silos at one of the 7 outposts on the outskirt waters edge of the sanctuary. And sure, speaking of the outskirt waters of the island anyways, there was also this Easter egg reference as a map change to, well, the Final Showdown being the Mecha Team Leader's arm that was ripped off by the Polar Peak monster, but considering it was lonesome at the time and didn't have any backing pointing toward an event happening, people simply overlooked this as a factor pointing toward what could be upcoming, perhaps even this season as a live event, as Imagined Order drill sites and camps actually managed to set up base and operation around the island, until now when we actually have one of the IO bosses, which is codename IO Brute, being Gunner, which is currently the boss of Covert Cavern. Just off topic real quick about him too, he's actually very overpowered, as yes, he has all the stats on screen right now or all the abilities or weapons, and believe it or not, we actually got revealed to to him for the first time in the end event cutscene as well, pressing the buttons to try and eliminate Agent John Jones once he had the device strapped to his head to do so. And speaking of Covert Cavern, the area of which he mans as a mythic boss or is ultimately controlling what operations the Imagined Order have planned out or are taking orders from Dr. Slone to do. One drill site in particular that we didn't really see set up base and actually just drilled away to reveal something was just on the outskirts of Tilted Towers in the Tilted Towers 19.10 update when it was initially revealed once downtime lifted, being called the Devoured, which is a brand new landmark to land at in-game. As to why the discovery of these bones are important for those that didn't play Chapter 1 or even if you did, let's take a trip down memory lane, as from looking at these and with the name of this being called the Devoured in itself as a landmark, this clearly is the bones of another Devourer monster in the Chapter 3 realm. With the addition of not only this map change but then linking it to the fact that we have the Mecha Team Leader arm that was ripped off and thrown in the ocean again in Chapter 1 Season 9's Final Showdown event. Players were not only excited even just then from connecting the dots, but even more so when data miners across social media, especially Twitter, revealed in the game's files that not only is there distant groans of another Devourer monster, but that also we're going to be getting what seems to be another underground POI, kind of like Covert Cavern, considering it's technically underground inside this mountain in itself or carved out, being now a Catus Cave, as Catus, if you didn't know, is codename for the Devourer or the Polar Peak monster in the files. The last we actually saw of these Devourer's bones was in the end event of Chapter 1, believe it or not, and many of you may not have even witnessed this in-game, but seen it anyways across social media. And speaking of the game's files, despite just taking my word for it that there's distant Catus or Polar Peak monster or Devourer groans, let's take a listen to these sound effects in themselves and what we can hear from them that Hypex tweeted out, so let's roll that clip. Despite those sound effects being very brief, it's clear to see, not only from the sound effects themselves from listening, that the groans are distant, but also the names of these sound effects being, well, distant groan. And for this reason, considering they've dug up one Devourer's bones anyways or one monster's bones from near the surface of the island, where maybe we might get revealed two smaller Devourer monsters as wildlife or even Devourer monsters as bigger wildlife, considering it wouldn't surprise me now with the introduction of Clombos and the size of those. And hey, speaking of discovering baby Devourers for the first time, could there be baby Clombos down in this Catus Cave too? I guess we're yet to know. But people are starting to believe now with the introduction of Covert Cavern and the fact that there's only skeleton remains here currently and nothing's been developed off of this location in 19.20, and with the amount of drills not stopping the drilling process inside Covert Cavern, that yeah, this is going to lead off to the Catus Cave in itself in the files. Well, believe it or not, firstly, now this kinda does make sense to a lot of players considering they're hearing noises when going near the walls of where the drills are positioned, as to something being on the other side or further down. And whether that does mean we're drilling to the side or further underground, it's safe to say we're going to be going further down in Covert Cavern, as data miners have not only found out that this central thing right here under the water that goes beneath anyways is not only a drill, but this is just the tip of it. Who knows, maybe we can dig and find in this Catus Cave once it's revealed multiple Devourer monsters, baby ones, or even just one giant one that the Imagined Order have kept secret, or as a backup plan weapon all of this time, of which for all Z has actually made a cinematic on screen for right now, as if Dr. Slone has actually captured a Devourer monster and is keeping it bound in chains until a vital moment where she needs to definitely use it to overthrow the Seven. And with this being a plausible theory, hence why it was made into a concept cinematic by Feralzi right here, with the fact that we know Donald Mustard revealed the Singularity to be only one of this character's names, implied that she's also the Paradigm, as she's been outcast by the Seven this season, and according to the recordings is public enemy number 1 of this faction. Could this frustration with the Paradigm or betrayal by her as the Foundation or other members of the Seven described be because of the fact she had to reach into the vault to obtain the 0 point to slay the Devourer in Chapter 1 Season 9? It would make sense considering we know how much the Foundation hates the 0 point being destabilized from the Chapter 2 Season 6 0 point or Crisis finale, and with one other member of the Seven trying to get her back on the good side or on the side of the other members anyways. Could the reason for this be, if Singularity is another snapshot version of the Paradigm, to construct a brand new Mecha Robot in defense anyways or preparation of defense against the Devourer monster being let let loose by the Imagined Order. And speaking of this battle commencing, a Final Showdown V2 if you like, is this going to be the live event for Chapter 3 Season 1, or is it going to be developed beyond this in another season of this third chapter? Well, to answer that question, let's just say first of all it's entirely possible, with us referring back to these statues representing each individual member of the 7, and there being 7 total at the Sanctuary, and with data miners managing to find the 3 remaining members of the 7's names that aren't currently revealed, and we even have an early look at them in just a second based off what's in the game's coding attached to each individual statue that member of the 7 is represented by. As you can see, we not only have the standard visitor, Paradigm, the scientist, the Foundation, but 2 others called the Sisters, and then more interestingly the Origin, of which in my opinion is the most interesting character out of all of these, and believe it or not we actually have an early look based off what Fortnite have released in survey or concept form for skins before they're implemented into the game. As you can see, for the Origin there's a mask on and off style of this 7 base skin anyways, with the same powers of the Cube Queen, as there's energy coming out of his hands, and there's so many other references to the Cube Queen and resemblances that I'm guessing he's had some sort of kind of encounter with her before previously that we don't currently know about. And of course these are the 2 members being the Sisters anyways, that believe it or not the Foundation revealed to us existed in the Chapter 2 Season 6 cinematic trailer when Agent Jones and him, well, weren't exactly on good terms. And you may be wondering why I've mentioned these 3 new characters is because of the fact, well, is it going to take for all members of the 7 to be revealed literally in the Fortnite world or universe, or able to be unlocked in-game? For this huge battle in live event form to take place between the 2 factions being the 7 with all members present, and then the Imagined Order or IO. And speaking of these skins coming again when they rotate throughout the item shop or just generally are involved again in the lore, would this mean that at the same time of this happening, the Paradigm will return to, again, perhaps even control a robot that defeats or tries to another Devourer monster which is on the side of the Imagined Order? To find out even more developed off of this in future updates to come of this season and beyond, make sure you're subscribing to the channel with all notifications turned on, and drop a like in today's video if you enjoyed and want to keep referring back to it. Speaking of other videos, however, or your next destination now, make sure to interact with anything on screen, I don't mind, but most importantly, hopefully I can catch you, yes you the individual still watching, I can see you, but hopefully in the very next video I do post on the channel.